So we've created a form, you know about validation now. All we need to now actually we need to be able to save our forms, right? So we're going to need some kind of save button right here, so we can click that and the form will save the data to the backend. We'll get addresses later, so don't worry about that for now. Now how do we figure out how to save? Well, if you jump back to Angular Reactive Forms, again it's on Angular.io, Fundamentals, Forms, Reactive Forms, and you scroll all the way to the bottom. In the middle of all of this, in between what I showed before and this, there's actually a lot about how we use the update, and we'll get back to that later. Right now we're creating, so let's just work with that for now. Now here they have a form available, and the two things that are very important for us to learn now is when we actually want to send something in a form with a request somewhere to a backend somewhere, we need to have a submit function somewhere in the form. And Angular were so nice, they made something called the ng submit that we can kind of listen for when we want to submit the form, right? So we need two things, this ng submit, and then we need a button that's a specific type of button called the submit button. Now this is also something you'll see in any other system when you work with forms inside HTML, that you need a submit button, right? And this is the button that we're going to need. So let's just build this so that we can soon try and actually save data back to our REST API. So jumping into the code, I'm going into the customer create component HTML file right here, finding my form at line 14 or something like that, and there I'm going to do the ng submit right here. Ng submit. Now it's not very helpful at trying to figure this out for me, so you just have to write it manually, and this is just going to be some kind of function. When I click the submit button, what do I want to call? And I just want to call the save function just to have a simple name here. So now we're going to call the save right here, and the save function is going to be put inside my Typescript code in the customer create component TS file, right? So this file right here, I'm going to create the save function right here that I just talked about in the HTML file. And right now let's just do a console log just saying saving customer or something like that, because we will go later and make this work so we actually really are saving a customer, but just so you guys can see that the click event is actually working. Good, now we have the save function up and running when we actually click the submit button. But most of you will notice right now we don't have a submit button, so that's the next thing. So let's create a button down here, and again it's very simple. We'll make a button, we'll make the class into a btn for button, and then we'll make a button that's outline, not danger. Let's do actually an info right here, and we'll just write save in here. Now I'll make a new line because I want to also add an icon to this button, and you guys should know how to do that now. I found one called FA floppy O inside Angular, inside FontAwesome. Let's add that in front of the save text. There we go. Now the button of course needs to have a type, and that's what I talk about. The button type needs to be submit, because we want this, when I click this button, we want to automatically trigger this function that would then redirect us into the save function that I just created. So that's actually all I had to do. Now we kind of have a button that says submit right here, and let's just try and have a look at where that is placed and how it works. So jumping back to our form right here, there we have the save button now, clicking save, and you'll see it actually starts printing out saving customers for each of my clicks right here. So now we have kind of wired the setup for doing the submit. Now we just need to kind of grab the data if the form is valid and actually save the data back to the REST API. See you in the next lesson.